Hello and welcome to Module 7 of Climate Change, the Fight of Our Lives, from Emergency to Solutions. The title of this module is Global Economics and the Future. The content this week will be delivered by Rob Delard from World Climate School and Aram Khan from SDGs Academy, Pakistan.
Welcome to this module of the World Climate School course on climate change. The title today is Climate Change and the Economy, Threats and Opportunities. We will talk about the incompatibility of advanced climate change and a flourishing economy, and how fighting climate change and restoring our planet's health could be the most amazing economic opportunity ever. But not in the sense of all of us consuming more, but rather in increasing our well-being, our happiness. My name is Rob Delard. I live in Brazil, where I work on forest protection, reforestation and rewilding. I am a member of the Extinction Rebellion, especially focusing on saving the Amazon forest. I'm your teacher for today, together with Hans-Jürgen Rasmussen, the founder of the World Climate School. The real question of today is, will we transform or will we run into an economic collapse? The choice is stark and simple, and it becomes clear when we're not afraid to look at the facts. The scientists are very clear about it. Climate change and connected crises such as the biodiversity crisis, the water crisis and other ones are a direct, urgent threat to our livelihoods and even our lives. We either transform the way we live together on this planet, or we face a dark future indeed. And we are all in this together. And the transformation is a global transformation, a planetary transformation. Everybody needs to join locally and do their part. But it starts with reinventing the way we look at ourselves and how we relate to the world around us and how we relate to life itself. Because a healthy economy is by nature embedded in a healthy ecology. And people are not aware of it, as somebody just said, once said, fish are the last ones to discover water. We do not appreciate the air around us, the soils that we live off, and the water that is replenishing our lives. And our air, water, and fertile soils are the product of a thriving biological web of life spanning the planet for millions and millions of years. We are a product of those things, of those elements, and we cannot exist without them. And the current economic system is destroying that web of life, thus destroying itself. It is not sustainable, and it will therefore disappear sooner rather than later. It is up to us if we make the transformation or nature does it for us. We urgently need to make the transition to a system that values people and planet over profit. And if we do not turn around soon, the collapse will come. However, if we do make the turnaround, it will be the largest transformation since we invented agriculture. And it will create millions and millions of jobs, all kinds of opportunities and new adventures into the possibilities of life. And we have the chance of creating this economy, which will be an economy based on well-being or happiness. And we can do it if we set our minds to it. So, just to resume the whole story in one picture again, which I hope you will study carefully after this lesson, is how global warming and climate change are interacting, what are the causes and effects. So the basis is that fossil fuel combustion, agriculture, and deforestation together release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere that warm up the atmosphere, and with that are warming up the planet. And you see that what is causing all this global warming is, for instance, water to evaporate faster, permafrost melting in the north, in the Arctic zone, but also glacier melting, for instance, in the high Himalayas, and snow cover reduction, which basically increases the amount of heat that is absorbed by the planet through sunlight. As you are well know, if you walk in a white t-shirt in the sun or in a black t-shirt in the sun, the difference is enormous. This is what is happening right now on a global scale in large areas. And all this warming and the feedback loops have an enormous effect on the environment. And we see a lot of habitat destruction, both through our own deforestation and use of agricultural land, and also through the effects more and more of climate change and the drying out of areas through droughts. And this all intensifies extreme weather events, especially droughts and heat waves, and floodings through bursts of enormous rains, which are increasing a lot. It is good to know that with the increase of 1 degree centigrade, the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere increases with 7%. So this also means that the cloudbursts are intensifying. And for some reason, it is amazing, but we both have droughts and floodings in the same areas, sometimes with short periods in between, because when there are no clouds and it's heating up, then the soil dries out. And then when you have a cloudburst, which is already stronger than the ones before, the water runs off quickly because the soil is so dry. So all these effects, they cause glacier retreats, fresh water loss, desertification, coral bleaching, sea level rise, and much more. And these have an impact on us humans, which is all kinds of ways: crop loss, floodings, human migration, conflicts, and often even direct physical harm to humans through increasing storms, lethal heat waves, and such. So it's very important to understand this whole system and of climate change and its feedbacks, and I hope you will study it again and make it part of your knowledge to explain it to other people. So the bad news is that we have to understand we are already in a phase where things are going wrong, with increasing pressure on all elements of our life and on our societies and so on. It is in many cases a silent story of many people struggling to survive, as the most vulnerable are the ones who get hit first. I would like to tell you a case of silent migration from an area in Bangladesh called the Barisal district, which is near to the Bay of Bengal. Bangladesh, as you know, has a fast-growing population, but at the last census, the government found out that the population of one district had actually fallen significantly. And this was the district of Barisal. After careful research, they found out that many small farmers could no longer stay on their land and make a living from those lands due to salination of their lands, caused by encroaching seawater infiltration, which was both caused by sea level rise as well as more frequent storms and also lower rivers in dry times so that the seawater could encroach more. So the combination of all these effects, which are all related to climate change, made it impossible for rice and other crops to grow on their food any longer. The only farmers that could still make a living were shrimp farmers, because shrimps can thrive in brackish and saline waters. But for most, the investments were too high, and poorer farmers sold their lands at a discount and migrated to the capital Dhaka and other cities, where they joined the army of people in the slums looking for jobs to make a living. This all happened for years without anybody reporting about it until the facts turned up in a census and the issue was researched. The degradation of lives and livelihoods of innumerable people is a grinding process that hardly gets noticed. It is the proverbial case of frogs being boiled in a pot. The urban elite doesn't really notice it because they move around in cars and have air conditioning and watch the internet, where only attention for the rich and powerful is really playing out in full. So I want you to think of cases in your own life, how the quality of your life is deteriorating slowly, maybe hardly perceptibly, both economically and in terms of general well-being, caused by all the stresses that are increasing daily. The good news is that more and more people, and especially the youth of today, understand the need for a great reset of the economy to get us through this crisis, and that we have already many of the answers to battle this crisis. The biggest problem is not finding solutions, because we have most of them, but it's to getting us moving. But once people see the opportunities, the transformation will actually will accelerate fast. Reversing the crisis will be the largest global economic activity by the 2030s. So do understand that this is not about crisis, just about crisis. It's also about turnaround and new opportunities. We will be in the middle of an energy transition, which has many facets, like efficiency, solar energy, wind energy, energy made from water, and nuclear energy. We will be busy with a lot more to improve the water cycle management, storing more water on land, in vegetation, in dams and ponds, and making it more productive and diminishing its threats, while, for instance, diminishing the amount of water that agriculture needs for irrigation. We will be in the middle of a food revolution, which is an agricultural revolution, first of all, but also a localization of food production and consumption, which changes the whole supply chain of food, which is now a global thing. We will concentrate more on healthier diets with a smaller footprint and decreasing food waste, which is actually a positive, because we will actually keep more money in our pockets. And one of the large movements will be that of landscape restoration. We have to understand that land, if fully created in its best possible way, with vegetation and good topsoil and water retention possibilities, is actually at its most productive in terms of photosynthesis, which is the basis of all life. So we will need new integrated land management. We need to revitalize lands. We need to green and reforest them, also to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And we can make them more productive with all these combined techniques. Another large industry will be to make communities more resilient, which means more increased public health, a better increased public health, more concentration on healthcare and social services, providing more education to more people, quite often free and over the internet, e-learning. And because of the increasing threats through climate change, we will need to update and upgrade our disaster and emergency response services, which also hold a lot of new jobs. And lastly, we have to redesign all the products that we use and design it into a circular economy. We have to reuse water and other resources, and we have to go to zero waste. So this transformation will actually create millions of jobs. If you browse through this list of adaptations, which is only a part of the list that actually can be found on the Drawdown website, we can see that there is a job to do for everyone. Let me just mention a few here. Some don't even seem obvious today, like the stress on education of women. Yet it has been proven that better educated, more independent women have better lives with less kids. So it slows down the growth of population, which is a crucial matter, especially in Africa and parts of Asia. Other important focuses are reducing greenhouse gases, renewable energy, but also, for instance, remote healthcare, all the information and communication services which make it easier for people to live, like e-banking. You don't have to go to the bank anymore. E-government, you don't have to go to the government anymore. Um, in construction, we will see that there are already many examples of zero energy buildings, and more of those will be constructed. So, food and water, restoring nature and forests, climate smart cities and rural communities, and a circular economy are enormous opportunities for future economic activity. And I hope it is clear by now that the work of us is not only immense, but it also will create new livelihoods and also a great purpose to be alive, because we are actually improving the planet instead of deteriorating as we are doing right now. A key notion which has already been talked about and will come back in this series of modules on climate change is the transition to a circular economy. In nature, nothing gets wasted. Everything is reused in the cycle of life. Actually, nature is much more efficient than we are, and we can learn a lot from nature, redesigning to make waste valuable input in the next round of use. Water getting reused, garbage becomes productive material for new things. We can design products with a longer lifespan and in a way that the components can be reduced. We can get rid of single-use plastics, and we can reduce packaging, which actually reduces the cost of product. So there's many ways, just by being smarter and more efficient with our resources and the way we apply energy, that will already make us more prosperous. But it does mean changing the way we live. And we have to focus on well-being instead of possessing stuff. Everything that we have in our house that we are not using is actually something maybe we shouldn't have bought in the first place, which would have given us money for other things. And many things that are in our house quite often relate to things like status, a larger car, a larger house. Well, it might be not really productive. If you take the example of cars, if we go from possessing one to actually having a self-driven car, pushed by a button on an app on a phone, and you get the car that you need. Sometimes it's a large car for the whole family. Sometimes it's a pickup to do some small moving. Sometimes it's a small one just to do some shopping. You see that this is already a possibility to decrease transport, decrease your cost, and decrease the amount of resources that we need for our transport. This is just one of the many examples of how our societies will change. The transition that we need seems overwhelming, but actually it's all in the mind. Don't forget that we have created the civilization, the system, economic system, the society as exists today. It didn't fall out of the sky. It was something that we constructed together over many generations. So what we made, we can also change. And we can do it again. And this time, we need to do it. And actually, we're in a hurry to do it. And one of the ways we need to transform our societies is transforming the way we are looking at our own lives. Together, we have to unite all people and organizations to create a vision and a plan for this sustainable economy where people thrive as part of a natural ecosystem. We are part of nature, and thinking that we are outside of it is a grave mistake that can kill us. And we need to make a shift from a short-term exploitative economic model to an economic model of happiness with a vision of the long-term viability of our lands and of our children. And it can be done, but only if we include the vast reservoir of wisdom of our species, our new knowledge on how ecosystems work, and the most cutting-edge forms of innovation, technology. And we need to integrate all this access to information, communication, and cooperation. Innovation actually happens through connecting knowledge. We already have all the parts. The solutions exist. The change makers are there. Millions and millions want to change this world to a better place. And I think we have a chance for a new civilization to emerge. If we make it happen, we will have been successful. But the key to success is connection and inclusivity. In order to change everything, we need everyone. So we have to realize designing the future is up to us. And we also should not forget that people have common sense more than you think. Up to the humble farmer has knowledge that would amaze you about the possibilities of growing food. It's not just our leaders who have it. Actually, it's possible to set 100 people of a society together, inform them with the latest science about where we are, and they will come up with practical solutions how to get out of our mess. And I think it is very, very important that we create room and support the youth. They have to take the reins to make this enormous transition work. So once more, I'd like to stress, while rounding off, that it's all in the mind, and it's up to us to make the great transition. The new economy will be based on new principles to guide our lives. Let us heal the wounds we've inflicted on our beautiful earth we are born from. The earth has given us our lives. And here you find some new principles to guide our lives and livelihoods in the decades to come, which I propose to you, but which I think you should think about yourself. First of all, we all are nature. We come from nature. We are part of ecosystems, and without which we cannot live. We should also have more confidence in nature because it has always provided, and maybe we simply need to listen and observe better how nature does it, because she has been doing it for millions and even billions of years. And we are part of that smart system of life that is much older and probably much wiser than we are. Water is life, treat it with respect. Air is life, treat it with respect. Let's not forget that we borrow this earth from future generations. We have an obligation to be guardians of the land, and we should leave it in a better way than the way we got it. Land does not belong to people. Land stays, people go. We belong to the land. Let's treat it with respect and give it all our input to become thriving again, to become lush and vegetated, and therefore give us a lot of food. Not possession, but security, sharing, and happiness should be our guiding principle. If you know that society will take care of you no matter what happens, you don't need to have millions of dollars in a bank account to feel secure. You can just rely on society. Happy relationships to other people and to nature bring relaxed, motivated people that have inspiration, and you know that with inspired, energized people, we can make a transition much faster than with tired, cynical people who don't see a way out. So let's be part of this new reset of the economy. 10 years from now, the economy will look completely different if we all set our hearts, minds, and hands to it. Thank you.
And now Aram Khan will take the floor. And first she will talk about circular economy, and after that, green banking.
Today's topic is circular economy. Before going into the details of circular economy, I would like to tell you something about how the Industrial Revolution started. What is the history of Industrial Revolution? The world was about to change. If you notice, the world was changed in the 18th century with the advent of Industrial Revolution. What happened at that time? In 1684, Thomas Savery invented the steam engine, and it changed everything. This invention kick-started the Industrial Revolution, which transformed our ability to make things. Raw materials and energy were seemingly infinite, and labor was readily available. For the first time in the history of human beings, goods were mass produced. So presently, we are depending on the linear economy. Economies can be classified into two major categories: linear and circular. A linear economy can be best described by a four-step process: take, make, use, and dispose. Industries manufacture products and sell them to the end customer, who ultimately dumps the product as waste after the product reaches its end of life stage, thus following a linear pattern of the scheme. Now, time has changed. We can see the emergence of Industrial Revolution 4.0. The world today is at the threshold of fourth industrial revolution. And this revolution, unlike past revolutions, is primarily driven by two primary drivers: automation and data, and a host of other drivers. So what is the biggest challenge now for fourth industrial revolution? Can these four industrial revolution technologies serve humanity without increasing the burden on Earth's overtaxed environment? Yes, we have to see and we have to look for the solution. We have to disrupt the whole system. The linear economy has to be changed. We must transform all the elements of the take, make, waste system. We have to see how we manage resources, how we make and use products, and what we do with the materials afterwards, after we dispose of. Only then can we create a thriving economy that can benefit everyone. Here comes the importance of circular economy. The circular economy may be the answer to this dilemma. It has emerged as an alternative industrial model to the prevailing linear model of production and consumption, in which goods are manufactured from raw materials, sold, used, and then discarded as a waste. The linear approach has led to a massive overshooting of planetary boundaries. Currently, it would take 1.7 Earths to replenish the resources used by human society and absorb the consequent pollution. We only have one planet, however. Now let's explore what is circular economy and what are the principles of circular economy. Here lies few important questions. Manufacture, for example. Do you know the waste and pollution is largely the result of how we design and manufacture things? It means that designing a stage is very important. Waste and pollution are not accidents, but consequences of decisions made at the design stage, with 80% of the environmental impacts are determined at that time. Now let's come to technology. By changing our mindset to view waste as a design flaw and harnessing new materials and technologies, we can ensure that waste and pollution cannot be created in the first place. So, the second principle is keep products and materials in use. So, we have to reuse. What if we can build an economy that uses things and not uses them up? We can't keep wasting resources all the time. We can design products so they can be reused, repaired, and remanufactured. When it comes to products like food, packaging, and garments, we should be able to get the material back as a raw material so they don't end up in landfills, creating hazardous environmental problem. Let's come to the third principle, the last principle. Regenerate natural systems. What if we cannot only protect and improve the environment, but go for more improvement, looking at the Earth's meager resources? In nature, if you explore, there's no concept of waste. Everything is a food for something else. A leaf which falls from a tree feeds the forest. So, by returning valuable nutrients to the soil and other economic ecosystem, we can enhance our natural resources. So, design is the most important element in the circular economy. Now, it requires us to redesign everything: products, business, models, cities, and the linear systems that have lasted for the past centuries. Now let's see what are the benefits of a circular economy. For example, it's about creating a balance between growth, better choices, and using the materials wisely to create a sustainable world. We can cut the cost. Up to 700 million US dollars annually can be saved by just moving towards cost saving materials. We can also reduce the carbon emission by 48% if we really work on renewable energy. Reduction in healthcare cost. According to an estimate, $550 billion reduction is possible in healthcare cost if we come up with a better food program. That's it, and that's all about the circular economy, and we need to explore it more. Thank you. Green banking. Since the issuance of the green banking guidelines in 2017 by the State Bank of Pakistan, the scale and scope of these guidelines have not been defined to develop a climate resilient economy. We need to work on it very seriously. Despite contributing less than 0.03% of the global emissions, yet Pakistan is among the top 10 countries highly under risk to the negative impacts of climate change. The green financing mechanisms are being considered as way out to deal with these challenges globally and locally. Green financing refers to eco-friendly business activities and energy-efficient industries, preferably financed by our local or international banks. Green financing means adding value to service delivery to protect the natural environment. The International Energy Agency, however, suggests that around $1 trillion per year in the low carbon economy needs to be invested to help protect the environment and combating climate change. Whereas the World Economic Forum considered investment of $700 billion per year globally in clean energy, transportation and forestry sectors. Pakistan needs to do a lot. It is worth considering the fact that the economic activities in all the sectors of economy heavily depends on the availability of reliable energy resources. So looking for viable green financing channels, opportunities to develop green markets, businesses and investment in energy efficiency projects and clean energy cannot be ignored in Pakistan. I believe our local banks, with the collaboration of other international banks, should start taking some initiative. Maybe it's a small initiative, but we have to start from somewhere, and we believe by educating our young entrepreneurs, we can move towards a more greener economy. Thank you.
We have reached the end of Module 7. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I also hope that you have become inspired to learn more. As usual, you will find your homework in the description below the video.